Episode of the Crowded Booth. My name is Bryce Kuhn alongside Matthew Lane here, and it's summertime now, and that means two things. It's baseball season, and we're getting into the NBA playoffs, and we're well within it now as you have the NBA Conference Finals going on. First off, we'll let you know, thank you to Cook's Hot Dogs, Cook's Place here in Columbus, Georgia, for allowing us to come in and record at their location. And if you want to come on out next time, make sure to follow all our social media to come out, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, so you can come out and watch. And if you want to get the link to watch the video later on or listen to the audio version on iTunes, do that as well. So Matthew, as we start talking about, the conference finals, you obviously have two very different series. You have the Warriors and the Rockets out west, which is a battle of heavyweights, which everyone predicted that was going to happen in the beginning of the season after the Rockets were able to get Chris Paul. Now you have the Cavs and Celtics in the East. We thought it was going to be Kyrie versus LeBron. Yeah. Obviously, that's now different. But we're going to go ahead and start off with talking about the Warriors and Rockets. And currently, after last night's win, the Rockets won 98-94.
It's insane.
It was a great game, and the Rockets won.
Yeah, and you would just the amount of opportunities that the Warriors had to win that game. I mean, after a countless amount of turnovers, bad shots, 17 turnovers for the entire game. Just continue this went on as Warriors have been in this position before. Rockets, you got Chris Paul in his first Western Conference Finals ever with this new team of the Rockets with James Harden kind of developing this new dynasty. Okay, where going to be the team to beat the Warriors this year after their incredible run, and just to see that happen and the Warriors not capitalize, you're like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? And at the end of the game, to see Chris Paul go down, it's like, okay, now we're back to square one where we were last year, to where, okay, that's the reason we got Chris Paul is because we were putting too much pressure on James Harden. So I think that's going to be, a key going into Game 6 and Game 7 as we kind of follow that up.
Yeah, James Harden is a fantastic player and has been throughout his career when he was with the Thunder. Now, when he blossomed to a bona fide stud with the Rockets. He's got all the talent in the world, but obviously in today's day and age in the NBA, you have to have more than one star, and it's been shown. And so they get Chris Paul to pair him, and Chris Paul really, like we were talking about earlier, went off in that second half for the Rockets in Game 5, allowing them to take that 3-2 series lead. But with that injury to him, how does that shake up the lineup in your thing? When you have Paul starting at the 1 and Harden at the 2, best backcourt in the NBA, arguably.
Well, considering Chris Paul's one of the best defensive point guards in the NBA, I mean, you put Patrick Beverley up there, but then Chris Paul is known as one of the best two-way point guards in the league, and so, and the amount of mismatches he created on the offensive end, especially when going against David West in the third quarter, like we saw last night. I mean, they did simple screens with Capella and did David West on Chris Paul, and he just went to town on that. So I mean, he's one of the most elite scorers on that team, and run hard. And I think he made 1 3 the entire game. I think it was 1 of 12. And for Chris Paul to pick up that slack, that's the reason they won that game. Yeah. So, and that's the reason they brought him in. To see that happen, it's just it's terrible. So
yeah, it takes a lot of
back to square one.
It takes a lot of the momentum. You come off that win, you got a 3-2 series lead, which you got to feel great about. But then to have that injury, like you said, takes you back to square one. Now, for the Warriors, people could argue say, I mean, they're the most talented team in the NBA right now, and one of the most talented teams you've ever seen put together. That's a whole other argument if you want to get into that. But guys like Andre Iguodala didn't play. He was questionable for tomorrow night's game. Yeah. My bet he's not going to play that game either. That's a valuable piece for the Warriors. And one of the things you always talk about, you always hear about that four. The four of Steph, Clay, Durant, and Draymond, and how they're done there. But their bench has always been a really deep bench throughout this championship kind of run for them the past couple seasons. How do you feel like that affects their bench? And they've made some miscues as well. I know you were talking about just the amount of turnovers they've made. And that's key to also the Warriors kind of shooting themselves in the foot, but also the Rockets with great perimeter defense. Guys like Trevor Ariza and P.J. Tucker.
Yeah, and with Andre Iguodala, those two series where Cavs won 7 and the Warriors won 1. The one where the Warriors won, Iguodala was the MVP because of the defense that he had on LeBron that series. And, obviously LeBron's going to average 28 and 7, better than that. But point is, he was the defensive, MVP for that series. And so for him to be at that kind of a loss, I mean, he was the guy to guard Harden. And so now that they're doing these simple pick and rolls and letting Steph guard Harden, I mean, he's going crazy with that. And then Paul's finding mismatches. I think that the Rockets are doing an incredible job of creating mismatches against the Warriors and putting people like like Steph Curry and David West to create those mismatches. I think I've been surprised that the Warriors haven't been able to counter that, with mismatches like putting Capella on Curry or putting Harden on KD because, Harden doesn't really play defense. He's known for literally scoring but playing no defense.
Yeah.
So creating those mismatches have been key, and that's what's been killing the Warriors with not having Iguodala out there.
And I think when you get into a guy like that is not a part of that four but is taken out, that disrupts the entire how they're going to sub and how Steve Kerr's going to go about
That's
it.
been their playoff lineup for the past 3 years.
And so what do? And you talk about one thing, you always hear about the Warriors lineup seems to match up with everybody, but they've like you said, they've had a tough time, getting away. You're going to have to now look at how are they going to be able to do without Chris Paul. So you got James Harden, perennial MVP candidate now. A bona fide stud, can score at will when he's on, and he's on most of the time.
Yeah.
Then you have guys like Trevor Ariza, PJ Tucker, defensive first guys, but can shoot the three ball. Trevor Ariza is essentially a 3-point shooter.
He's had
and a
experience in the
guy.
finals when he won with Kobe in 2009, 2010.
So he has that experience. They're an experienced veteran team. One guy you pointed out, Ryan Anderson, he will have to get some more minutes as that kind of stretch four guy that can stretch the floor. So it's going to be an interesting matchup as they keep going. How do you feel that they're going to have to counter? We talked about Iguodala, how the Warriors are going to have to counter. What do you feel like the Rockets are going to be able to do or have to do in the absence of Paul, and how do they fill the scoring opportunities? Because like we talked about, Harden's a great player, but we've already seen Harden can't do it all by himself.
Well, Eric Gordon, you saw what he did last night. The clutch threes that he had late in the game, and I think the amount of points that he provided off the bench. Obviously, one of the best six-mans in the league, but just the amount of threes that he created, and honestly, I didn't know he could play off the dribble like that where he did last night. He had a couple of balls where he just took in the paint from the three-point line, made some good moves. So I didn't really know he had that in him. But if he steps up like that for these last 2 games, that's going to really help them out. So I look for him to step up. And I don't expect Iguodala to start in Game 6. They're at home. I think they're like 10.5-point favorites. So Vegas has them really high and doesn't expect them to lose. I don't expect them to lose, especially with Chris Paul not playing. I think it could be a big blowout. But Game 7, I think is going to be a good one, especially if Paul is able to return. I don't think he will. The injury looked bad when I saw it. It looked like he had a hard time walking, and it almost looked like he was starting to cry because I think he just knew. So if that's the case, I really don't see the Rockets having that great of a chance. As you can see, last year's Western Conference Finals, I think they won 4-1. I think Rockets got 1 game, and now that you saw the difference that Paul's made, and now they're up 3-2, and for him to go out like that, it's just shooting your dreams now. It's like, I'm going to go to University of Georgia, and then something crazy that I end up going to some D2 school, but I just kind of see it like that, just something terrible happening.
It's tough because a guy like Chris Paul, this is his first conference finals appearance, and is going to go down as one of the best point guards to ever play the game.
Oh, yeah.
He's a phenomenal player.
Just hasn't been on that team.
Yeah, hasn't been on that team, and this is arguably the team that could have done it. So that's tough to see him have to go through something like that.
Wow.
And even if he can come back for a potential Game 7, so I think what you're saying is Game 6 is going at home in Golden State. Crowd's going to be crazy.
I don't think they're expecting to win that game.
So I agree with you. I think the Warriors win that game. So if you go to a Game 7 scenario,
same thing with Iguodala and Paul.
How do you not take the Warriors again? I know it's at home and it's against Houston, but if Paul does come back, to what extent can he actually be the 100%? What percent are you getting of Chris Paul in a Game 7 scenario?
And if you're not getting the Chris Paul that can go in the paint, create plays, get Capella inside on those easy dunks, and just the defense that he brings in, the intensity and the experience. Like I saw in the last couple huddles of the game, Chris Paul was the one leading the huddle. Mike D'Antoni was not the one talking to the players. It was Chris Paul. So when you lose the experience, skill set that he brings to the table, it's huge. Because, obviously he hasn't never been there, but it looks like he's been there for a while, especially in those type of situations.
Yeah, veteran guy that's been around the league for a while. And even a guy like James Harden, he's played for a while now, but he doesn't have the big game. He has big game experience, but not the quite of the guy like that can come into a locker room and say, hey, look, guys, I've been in this position before. Because, the thing was last year, the Clippers had a lead last year and completely blew it against the Jazz. And so Chris Paul knows what it's like to be in tough playoff situations. And so, you're still going to have him on the bench, but it's not the same as having your veteran, essentially the quarterback out there for them, if you want to go to a football reference. I think the Warriors win it in 7. I think that like
I
you
do
said,
too.
I agree with you. It's going to be a blowout at home.
If
with
Paul were
Golden State.
100%, I would actually take the Rockets, but I don't see him being 100%. Like hamstring issues, like that's an injury that just like doesn't go away in like a week and you like never like have problems with it again. Like that's a recurring issue. It's like a high ankle sprain almost. Like that, it doesn't really heal. Like I mean, it's
And
a lot of
anytime you try to do something,
treatment and
exert
stuff
yourself
like
way
that.
too much, it's going to flare back up again.
And just watching this series, like just imagine if Harden and KD and Russell Westbrook were all on the same team again. Like that'd be crazy.
So, switching over to the other side. So that's our prediction here is we're going to go with the Warriors in 7. So our predictions, they're going to face them in the finals. And who are they going to face as we switch over to the Eastern Conference now? The Eastern Conference has been really interesting all season long. The number 1 seed is not in it, the Toronto Raptors.
Sweat.
They swept by LeBron and the Cavs after LeBron and the Cavs struggled against the Pacers, who are a good team. I mean, Victor Oladipo played out of his mind in that series. But moving ahead, then you have the Celtics, who come into the season with just a dream roster. Honestly, it really is. I mean, you have the Warriors, but you have a dream roster. You have Kyrie Irving. You just signed Gordon Hayward, and then you have Jaylen Brown, who has been in the league for 1 year, and then you have another stud wing coming in. And he really lived up to the hype in Jason Tatum. So they had this dream roster, still able to clinch the second seed. Oh, Al Horford, who, as a person who has watched the Hawks for a long time, Al Horford was a great player in Atlanta. But it's nice to see him do well in another team and really assert his dominance like he did in that second round series against the 76ers, which was fun.
He's just one of the few big men in the league that can do it all. He's not just a guy that puts up like 12 and 10. I mean, dude can get 7 assists in a night for you. He's a big distributor. He can move. He can rebound. He can shoot the 3 ball. I think he's been one of the big, key difference makers in this series besides Tatum, who's been unreal. But, like, Al Horford has been unreal this year. It's definitely been a career year for him so far.
And I think when you look at it, who matches up with him on the Cavs side? I mean, you got Tristan Thompson. He's more of an interior presence, rebounding guy. Kevin Love, obviously, but Horford's an athletic big guy. Like you said, he can put the ball down and go towards the basket.
And I think they've used the combination of Aaron Baines and Al Horford at those 2 big spots for Baines to match up with Thompson. And Horford, with his athleticism, is able to guard Love, who can shoot the 3, play in the post, play under the rim. I think that's been the key matchup for them because in the games where Baines and Horford were not on the floor, I mean, it was a negative defensive efficiency. But when they put Baines and Horford both on the floor together, it was a positive. And you could see the difference it was making with Baines shutting Thompson down on the boards as much as possible because he's such a hoss on the boards. But with Horford on Love, I mean, Love was still producing, but not at a high rate. I mean, you still saw James kind of having to do all the work, and as a result, you saw the fourth quarter into the third, James was wearing down. You could see him I know ESPN makes it a huge deal, but I mean he was literally gassed, and so that's what I'm concerned about with LeBron going into Game 6 and Game 7. I know he's Game 6 at home, but I just don't know if he has I don't think he has the motor to go. I mean, I know he's the most durable player of all time. I mean, he doesn't get injured, unreal numbers, but I mean, I just literally think he's getting to the point where he can't score 38, 15, 12 for these Game 6 and Game 7 games. So we'll see. I think you're going to have to see big games from Kevin Love, J.R. Smith, and George Hill, who, I mean, they're good players, but, I mean, not guys that you're expecting to put 17 points on the board or in Kyle Korver. So
I think with the team that you have, and if you haven't been watching it, the Cavs, after going down 2-0, come back home with 2 huge wins. That saved the series for them, in my opinion.
And I thought that gave them the momentum.
And I did too. And then you come back to Boston. Boston absolutely dominates the Cavs.
Who hasn't lost a playoff game yet.
And so Boston has all these young guys, and one of the storylines after they lose the first game 3, is their inexperience shows and the youth shows. I think that the Boston's youth is a good thing, and it can be a bad thing for them. A lot of those guys like Terry Rozier, have stepped up in the spotlight and absolutely played out. I mean, Terry Rozier has been other than being a human highlight reel, the entire playoffs, he's also been really fun in the press conferences as well, and he's blossomed as a player. Guys like Jason Tatum, I mean, 19-year-olds shouldn't be doing this.
I'm older than him, and I'm sitting here at Cook's Hot Dogs, and he's up here playing in the NBA.
19, 20-year-olds should not be doing this at this age and playing against guys like LeBron. And you talk about the Celtics have Al Horford. We already talked about him. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Tatum and Brown playing on the wings. I mean, you don't have to put them out there at the same time.
That athleticism is unreal.
Young athletic guys. Then you have Terry Rozier, who all his career has been a backup quarterback. I mean, a backup point guard. He's been a backup point guard. And now he's playing like one of the top point guards in the NBA.
I know. Just imagine if Kyrie and Gordon Hayward were playing right now. I don't even think this series would be close.
I think it'd have been over already.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think when you take that and you talk about just this, and it has been harped on all season long. This is not the same team the Cavs have had. I mean, this team. I mean, they had at the trade deadline, pretty much blew the team up and got a bunch of.
How could you give up Kyrie? I don't know how that happened. But
yeah, that trade will. I mean, that's going to go down as kind of a power shift in the East, really.
Oh my gosh!
With Kyrie going to Boston, so Boston is up 3-2 now.
Mm-hmm.
Game 6 tonight, 8:30. What are your feelings on it? LeBron, like you talked about, LeBron, he's gassed. I mean, I think it was obvious.
Mm-hmm.
In the fourth quarter, he was exhausted. I mean, he's having to do it himself. You talked about, he's pulling up when probably you would normally see him drive to the basket.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And so that's not just a question anything about his ability at all. I mean, he's
greatest player on the planet.
Greatest player on the planet. We have the argument
All
about
time.
the greatest player of all time.
I think he's the best of all time, but that's
a different argument for a different day. So you have him, and then you have, I think you hit the nail right on the head with Kevin Love. I mean, if he shows up, it's a different ball game for him. If J.R. Smith gets hot, he's the best shooter on the planet. I mean, he really is. When he gets hot, it's unreal to see him
Besides
shoot.
Steph Curry.
Besides Steph Curry, yes. Kyle Korver. I mean, get him open and get him in a rhythm. And I think they have a chance. I mean, that's the reason you play these games. But on paper, Boston looks like an overwhelming favorite. But as you head into Game 6, they're going to be at home. I think that does play into their advantage. They're going to come back home. They played well at home when their backs were, they're down to it. I feel like that the Game 3, their backs were against the wall. If you don't win that one, it's over, in my opinion, already. So, in the backs against the wall, once again, they've got to win the next 2 games to advance. I know LeBron is amazing, but do you think he has enough left in the tank? You talked about it a little bit to really, in a way, will the Cavaliers to a finals appearance?
I think the Cavs lose tonight. I think Brad Stevens comes up with a good game plan. Like I said, with the Baines and Horford combination on the floor, finding ways to get Love and Thompson not as heavily involved as they have been when they were at home. I think they find a way. I think that Cavs come out strong in the first quarter, but second half adjustments, I think you start to see the Celtics kind of pull their way back late in the third and the fourth. I think that's when you'll see LeBron, like on those mismatches with Rozier, and he'll start pulling up shots. And if he makes them, they probably will win. But if they don't fall, I mean, kind of have a tough time. I mean, nobody can guard him when he's going in the paint. I mean, he's either going to get fouled or he's going to make it. That's just how it is. The dude's 6'8", 260, of pure muscle, and he literally, he's just the greatest player on the planet. So I think if you see those shots fall, they win. But if not, which is more likely because he's doing step backs, from 23 feet back, right in front of the three-point line, I think you see them lose. But I just think that the Celtics they have more guys. I think they have more talent. I just like the lineup. I like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Horford. I like the way Tatum's playing. He is on fire. I think he shot over 50% in Game 5. So, I don't know. I just like the Celtics play better. I think they have more weapons. So, we'll see how that plays out.
Just to be different, and also what I think is going to happen, because it's just who LeBron is. I say the Cavs win Game 6. I say that at home they're going to win. I say LeBron shows up.
Favorite. So,
it's not like it'd be this huge upset that no one's ever seen. But I think LeBron, I think he's got enough left to take. But I do think in the end, Celtics win in 7.
Who haven't lost a
playoff game at home.
A home
playoff game. And I think so you take Game 6 tonight out of the question. I say Cavs win that one and head back to Boston. And then I think Game 7, I think the home crowd in Boston, Game 7, those fans, like we talked about this beforehand. The fans in big sports cities, this is not to discredit any big cities, but you get cities like New York, Chicago, Boston. Fans in those cities, they really come out, and it's a crazy sports fan that you love, and that's why we love sports. I think that atmosphere in a Game 7, I don't care who you are. I don't think you're beating them. I don't think you're beating them. I know it's LeBron, and I know it's everything, and he's an amazing player, but I really just don't think he has the tools to win a 7-game series against the Celtics. And I thought that beforehand, and I'll stick with it now. I think he wins Game 6 because it's at home, and and not to want to say that he shows up, because he's been showing up the entire series. But I think J.R. Smith shows up in a big way tonight, feeding off the home crowd energy. But I think it's tough to get on a rhythm, and I think the Celtics will get out to a fast start, and I think it'll just eventually wear down. So that leads us to our NBA Finals preview, which we're going to hit on next time. But that's going to say, so if you didn't hear it, Matthew's taking the Cavs winning tonight. No, I'm sorry, the Celtics winning tonight. I'm taking the Cavs winning tonight. So it's going to be, no matter what, Celtics Warriors, which is going to be an amazing finals that I'm excited about.
Yeah.
So
I have a cool little prediction as far as like who would match up better. Like I think if the Rockets end up pulling it out of the Western Conference and Celtics out of the Eastern Conference, I think the Celtics have a good chance with the amount of mismatch that they can create. But we'll talk about that in the next episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the next episode. And so, but yeah, so you heard it here. So we think that it's going to be Celtics and Warriors. That's our predictions. We think the Cavs get the win tonight, but the Celtics are going to win it in Game 7. And on the other side that we talked about beforehand, we just think the Warriors are just going to.
Yeah, I think
it's not the same without Chris Paul.
Yeah, I think the Chris Paul injury just kind of messes up everything. I mean, the amount of mismatches he created, his defensive play. I mean, he's been unreal in this series against the greatest team on the planet. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, Cavs tonight. I'll take the C's. But if not, Celtics in the Eastern Conference for sure.
It's gonna be fun to watch, and we want to encourage you to watch all along. Thank you for watching. Thanks to Matthew for coming on.
Yeah.
He's going to be on plenty more this summer as we get a little more consistent in episodes now that school is out and everything. So we want to thank you for watching. We want to thank Cook's Hot Dogs for letting us come out here at Cook's Place in Columbus, Georgia, and letting us record here. Make sure to come on out and get yourself a hot dog and have a fun time with Mr. Roy Cook. And thanks to Matthew once again for coming on. And thank you for watching, everyone. It's been a great show, and make sure to tune in next time. And make sure to like us on all social media platforms. Have a good day, everybody.